Hey real world climbers, it's me Josh and I'm back with another video. This is going to be a pretty special video in my opinion, and it is the start of a new home wall series. So as you saw in a previous video, a little mini announcement that we were moving. So we took down the freestanding wall, which was Real World Climbing Headquarters number 4, and now we're beginning number 5. So why don't we jump in by giving you a little preview of the space that we have to work with. Alright, so this is our new home. We've purchased this home. If you may recall, in Headquarters Part 4, it's kind of a rental agreement. That was a temporary situation. We were there for about a year and a half, and the climbing wall was up for about a year. And now we have this space here. The house is great and it fits our needs, but as you'll see here, the one-car garage is pretty small. But I've come up with a design to work in here that actually is going to give me quite a bit of climbing square footage, and so I'm excited to do this build here. What we're going to end up doing is having a wall that goes from the back wall around a corner and basically an L shape or a dihedral over into this area. It still should leave room to park a car in the garage in the winters and etc. So I spared you some of the general cleanup stuff here. So the first step here is to prep the space, and I got to clear some stuff out here. Obviously when we moved, we just kind of threw stuff in here, and so got to move my climbing holds and just some miscellaneous things, take down a few shelf brackets and things like that. And I also have some basic prep work to do up in the joist work here. So there's some things stored up there. Actually, these 2x12s here, which I'm going to for sure end up using, are up there as well. So I'm going to get some free lumber that will be valuable. Even moving these fluorescent lights slightly so that they're out of the way of my climbing area. And then we'll start with the wall build. I'm excited to share with you what kind of wall we're building. Lots of climbing holds. They're very heavy. Alright, so the previous owners left a bunch of this flooring here. So I have an idea for use of that, but it's going to be much later in the process. So for now, it's got to get out of here. Alright, so this corner is pretty much cleared out. Last thing I have to do is rip down these brackets here. And then I think I'm going to leave these shelves up because they'll be pretty much entirely behind the wall. And maybe I can use them for behind the wall storage anyway. Now I'm going to pause here and just let you know that I'm actually going to be building this wall a little bit differently. So the way I'm going to be building this wall is I have plans, and I'll show you those plans, but I'm also kind of going to do one chunk and then not ad-lib, but I have an idea and I know it will work, but the exact measurements and angles of the second half of the build is going to have to be done as we go. So in my previous build, you saw that I had quite extensively gone through and done all the work on graph paper as well as in SketchUp and things like that. And so I'm going to do that here as well. I am going to build a SketchUp model because I like having digital 3D model that I can use anyways. But here's what my initial plans are, and like I said, I'm going to allow it to be just this generalized, and then I'll graph out each specific piece as it comes. So for instance, this top part here is a top-down view of the garage, and so this is my width and my depth that I'm going to get to work with. And so you can see here, this line right here is, I call it the head print instead of a footprint. It's the head print, and that is how much on the ceiling that's going to take up. And that's actually a 40-degree wall, and you can probably guess where I'm going with this. To have a 40-degree wall 8 feet wide, and that is going to be a moonboard. So I've wanted to have a moonboard for a long time. I was trying to figure out a space to do it, but I didn't have the height and things like that. And I technically don't have the height here, but I'm actually going to be doing something pretty cool. I think it's cool. and I'm going to take you with me on my journey. Obviously, I'm not a home engineer and things like that, so you're going to see me take things like overboard as far as reframing things and structuring things, but I'm actually going to be building that moonboard here on this whole back corner here. So I'm super excited for it. I've wanted it a long time. And another piece of this home board that's going to be a first for me is I'm actually going to be painting my home wall. If you can see here, this panel with the blue here, I acquired some of those many years ago, and they have latex paint on them. So the reason why up until this point I've been pretty much an advocate of bare wood look, but also just not painting home walls, is because of my experience with latex paint, and particularly like what happens when I used earlier panels of this plywood here that had already been painted. It just never, I don't believe it ever cures. I don't believe it ever is just not sticky enough that the back of the hold won't rip paint off and have it be stuck to the back of the hold. And so I really didn't like that. And so I've been a big advocate of just leaving the wood bare. And it looks, I think the bare plywood looks pretty cool. But I'm actually going to be painting this because I am going to be using these panels with this blue paint on them. You might ask me, well, why would you use those panels with blue paint if you don't really like them? I clearly have plenty of plywood. Well, you can't see it now, but when I acquired these, it already had the T-nut grid spacing for a moonboard. So that's pretty cool. I'm already going to start with that moonboard T-nut spacing, and so I can actually save myself a bunch of time. Now I'm also going to be doing some other interesting things with the moonboard, and then I'll take you again on that journey with me. So I'm going to be painting it. I'm going to be doing two-tone paint, so I'm going to have the grid lines be one color and the base or the background be another color. I'm going to have little arrows and all kinds of cool stuff. So I'll explain things as I go, but I'm really excited about building out the moonboard. You've probably seen me climbing on moonboards with my friend Jack at his house and his home wall. And so it's my turn to have a moonboard finally. So back to the drawing here then is, that's the moonboard, and then I'm going to have this sidewall here. So I got this 8-foot wide sidewall here and a transition wall here. You see me do a transition wall on my Real World Climbing Headquarters Part 3 back in Minnesota. So that's the overhead view, and that just in general draws out my space. I got this little triangle here, and that's going to be an extension that goes up into the rafters, and I'll show you that as well. So that's the general overview, and then what I have down here below is more detailed. So this is the face-on view. So here's the moonboard. You can see my joist work that I'm having to work with. And then you can see a side view of my sidewall, which is going to be around 20 degrees, maybe 22, 25, which is great because then I have something really steep and then I have something less steep. And then this is just the side view then, so you can see the side profile of the moonboard. This is where my rafters go, and this is where I'm going to go up into the rafters to get my height that I need. And then here's my face-on view of the sidewall. And so I'm going to have 8 feet here and then a 6-footer here, and then just build that triangle there. And then this is where I'm going to build that extension that goes a little bit over. And then here's that transition wall. So I know it seems kind of vague so far, but basically we're going to be using all of this space and we're going to be going up into there. So what I have to do next is I have to clean out up here in the rafters to begin prepping my structure, my reframing there. I'm also going to be moving these fluorescents. So now we have the lights moved here horizontally, which will get me out of the way because I need this headroom over here. So here's what we're doing next. We're going to head up into the joist work and toss down a bunch of this junk. In particular, I'm excited about these 2x12s right here because that's actually going to play into my build, and I didn't have to buy them. Check this out. It's cool. I'm gonna have to use this somehow. Arvada Electric Company, electric supply company. super cool. Yeah. All right, so I think pretty much cleared out here. This whole corner is cleared out. Up there is cleared out. So now I think I'm gonna do a little pause from this and I'm gonna start painting. The reason why I'm gonna start painting now is because I want it to be dry and have time to do that. And today is a nice day out and everything like that. So what I'm actually gonna be doing is I'm gonna actually be utilizing this sheet of plywood that I've had since home wall number 2, as well as the one behind it, which is identical, the 4x8, and just lots of T-nuts. And we're gonna paint this. And then I'm also gonna, again, as I mentioned before, paint these blue ones that will end up on the moonboard. So these two here are gonna end up on the side wall, like a 20-25 degree wall, something around there. 20 degrees probably. Alright, so here's the first sheet of that blue plywood. As you can see, it already has the 8-inch grid that's moonboard, and so it's ready to go. But how this is actually working out is pretty cool. So my friend Jack, who again you've probably already met through some of my other videos with his home wall, he is going to be loaning me his set of moonboard holds, the 2016 setup, and an LED system. So what I'm actually going to be doing is I'm actually going to be drilling the LED holes as well. Basically, I'm going to be doubling all of these holes. So there is an LED that will point to the hole for each of the holds for those moonboard climbs. And so you can use the app and all that great stuff. I'm actually going to be doing it a little bit different than the moonboard specs. So instead of drilling the hole below the hold and having the light right below it, I'm actually going to have it off to the right. So down and right from the hole that you're going to be using, and have a little arrow that points to it. And there's a pretty cool thing behind this. So what I'm actually going to be doing is I'm going to be drilling the holes, putting T-nuts in, and then using magnets on the LED lights to hold them into place. That way, in the event that Jack wants his holds back and his LED system back for his own wall, because he's just loaning them to me, then I will already have T-nuts in place and ready to go, so I have more hold selection. So I thought that was a pretty good idea. We'll see how it turns out. With that being said, I'm going to actually be drilling these holes before I paint.